It's PRESSCORE, people. I'm David Cruz. The first State of the Budget speech is behind us. Now begins the deep dives, the budget hearings, and the behind-the-scenes deals. The march to June 30 has begun. We'll bring the PRESSCORE panel in to tell you the score when we get started right after this.
Hey, we're taking a break from the show to remind you that when you like, subscribe, and share this content, you're helping us build an audience for independent journalism. Thanks for streaming. Let's get back to the program.
Our panel of bean counters joins us now. Brent Johnson covers the State House for NJ Advanced Media. He's also the author of Mikie's World newsletter. Dustin Racioppi is the New Jersey editor for Politico. And Fred Snowflack covers politics for Insider NJ. Gentlemen, welcome. Good to see you all. So above the fold this week, all the stories are budget stories. Let's start with you, Dustin, a little bit about what you heard in the tone, and then maybe a touch on substance, which we'll be digging into for this entire show.
Well, the tone from Governor Sherrill actually struck me as quite similar to the tone we used to hear from Governor Chris Christie years ago. An emphasis on fiscal restraint, the old cliches of getting our house in order. She was very serious, it sounded like, to hone that message that they need to tighten their belts, for lack of a better term. And included in that, the big one that's going to get trimmed in her plan is Craig Coughlin's Stay NJ tax rebate program. So the big question is whether that's going to shape up to be a fight over these next couple of months.
Fred, what did you think of the delivery? I kind of agree with Dustin that it reminded me of a Chris Christie speech, especially the beating up on lawmakers for their largesse. But Fred, what did you think of the tone, and then what grabbed you as far as substance goes?
No, I think I agree with what both you gentlemen have said. I mean, Chris Christie, by the way, was in the audience. He doesn't always go to budget speeches, but he was there for whatever reason. And not only Stay New Jersey, I'm sure we'll get into it too. I mean, she challenged, actually scolded the legislature, suggesting that they do away with the quote-unquote Christmas tree items, which basically has been a tradition for a very long time, so-called goodies that are added to the budget literally at the last minute for districts back home. And of course, these days, they generally benefit Democratic districts because there's so many more Democrats in the legislature than Republicans. But in the old days, when there were more Republicans, some of them would benefit Republican districts as well. So that's kind of been some bipartisan largesse. And we will eventually see how serious she is about Xing those out.
What did it sound like to you, Brent, and what did you take away from the governor's presentation?
Yeah, I mean, it continues. She had said that she wanted to challenge the status quo during her campaign. And that's something I know a few people scoffed at. They were like, "Well, you're chosen by a lot of the county party leaders, and you're a Democrat, and your party just won a rare third straight term." But she is sticking with that message. And as I noticed that Craig Coughlin and Nick Scutari didn't clap an awful lot when she mentioned these things. Some people noted that they exchanged maybe a worried or knowing glance at each other when she mentioned the Christmas tree spending. But yeah, this is her trying to stake a claim as a new kind of Democrat, which again, the message I've always talked about that I thought she didn't mention enough, or I was surprised she didn't mention more during the campaign, was that I'm an outsider. I'm a congresswoman who's never served in Trenton. She kind of hinted at that, but now I guess she's making it more apparent.
What did you think of the reaction? You mentioned that the speaker and the Senate president were like, "What the hell is she talking about?" And even in they usually issue a press release in support of generally the governor's ambitions as far as the budget's concerned. But Dustin, they were like, for instance, the speaker didn't even mention the Stay NJ stuff in his response.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
That was probably a Hall of Famer for the most anodyne statement by a public official. But, what really matters is what happens June 28th, 29th, 30th, those last few minutes. we'll go through this process of the hearings, and maybe we'll get a sense of how hard Craig Coughlin and other Democrats may be fighting for stay NJ. But the reality is, it all happens at the last minute, as Fred said, and those last 2 or 3 days before the budget gets signed, those are the most consequential times of the budget season. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, if you look back to the first budget season of Phil Murphy, when he was an outsider Democrat coming into a Democratic legislature, they fought, over the millionaires tax, and there was a threat of a shutdown. I know, because all of us were sitting out there outside waiting for Sweeney and Coughlin to come out of his office in the hot summer. So it's not unprecedented. I know John Corzine fought with Assembly Speaker Roberts, and they ended up going to a shutdown in 2006. So there is precedent for this, of Democrats fighting with Democrats.
Fred, not so much of rave reviews from Democrats on this, huh?
But interesting about state New Jersey, she's not eliminating it. She just wants to reduce the cap from $500,000 to $250,000. And in a way, this could be Democratic philosophy, in the sense that let's just give benefits to those who really need it and not to rich people. Now, granted, you could argue in New Jersey, you could be making $300,000 a year and you may not necessarily be rich in a global sense. But I think you could see the philosophical divide there.
Yeah. Assembly Republican Budget Officer Brian Rumpf said, I think it's a little bit too early to be deflecting blame to the extent that Governor Sherrill is deflecting blame. Is he right, Dustin? I mean, have these dreaded cuts from the federal administration hit yet?
They're going to hit, yeah.
Yeah.
And
the plan is in 26 that they'll hit.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for a governor to blame their predecessor. It's pretty rote.
Yeah, but the difference is Mikie would be blaming a fellow Democrat. But I mean, but the same idea, yeah. And he was
but her criticism is, I think most people would agree, it's pretty fair, because they have spent years tacking on hundreds of millions of dollars to these budgets, and it has been, since COVID, it's been kind of a financial gravy train. So I think people would agree that her criticism is sound.
And she did say something nice about Murphy when she thanked him and credited him for making full payments into the pension system, a tradition which she says she's continuing.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, fair enough. This Walmart tax and other business taxes, what are they, and what's the business community feeling about that, Brent?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There were some statements put out by business groups that were kind of praiseworthy of her. She kind of had kind of a better relationship with businesses, the business groups, in the first few months than you expect of many Democrats. But I mean, I know they're concerned, is the word that I saw used, about these business taxes. And Republicans will tell you that, she said no taxes on individuals, but she's raising taxes on businesses. So you can't say it's a no tax budget. That's one of the criticisms you heard. So I guess it remains to be seen. But so far, I really have noted that she hasn't had an all-out war business relationship with businesses that you saw sometimes throughout the Murphy administration.
Yeah.
I mean, she is trying. I mean, it's only been in the last 7 weeks, but I know she is trying to visit businesses and have some sort of I mean, she said in her speech, and she said it in the transition too, complaining about red tape and how many regulations there are in New Jersey, which is something Republicans complain about all the time, but Democrats don't always do that.
Red tape, I guess, is easy to cut through, or easier to cut through, as far as things that you want to promise the business community. But these taxes that hit their profits and so on, Dustin, nothing yet complaining from the business community about that?
I certainly haven't seen any of the sort of outrage or condemnation that we would expect to see, and that's kind of surprising. So time will tell, I guess, but perhaps her approach is fairly reasonable.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She also went at Murphy a lot, I thought, and on the legislature as well, almost as much as she went at Trump. No, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, she did take moments to swipe at Trump, which has kind of become her calling card. And it seems like she doesn't put away any opportunity to take a swing at Trump. But yeah, it was definitely more. There was more. I mean, it is a state budget speech, so you have to talk about what officials in the state are doing more, I guess. But she said that she is going to make New Jersey a model, compared in contrast to Washington, for how to run government and efficiently and more affordably for the people. So she has made it clear many times in interviews that she's not going to stop attacking Donald Trump, but she also has made it clear a few times that she's also not going to stop attacking her fellow Democrats if she feels that's needed. So again, she has been feisty, for lack of a better term, when it comes to criticism of anybody. But as the proof is, Dustin said, it's really what happens in the next few months is what matters. It's all platitudes until the pedal hits the metal on the budget and we see what happens come June 30th, or if we're all back in a parking lot on July 1st.
Let me stay on Jay for a minute. Um, it changes to a program that I guess progressives felt, Dustin, like it was a little too generous. $500,000 income you could have and still get, $6,000 back on your real estate tax.
Right. I don't think anybody's going to be crying for half millionaires not getting the benefit,
Yeah.
especially at a time when people could be making close to six figures and still struggling because the cost of everything has gone up. And New Jersey, as we all know, is just a high cost state. So it takes a lot to live here. But if you're clearing 500,000, I mean, give me a break. It's really hard to study.
That's true, but Republicans will be complaining about that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have the problem of $500,000
Right.
income. But as far as Stay in J goes, I mean, the speaker has invested a lot in this, not just money wise, but rhetorically. Brent, is he ready to fight for this, or does he figure, well, listen, at least I keep the program?
I asked someone in the legislature who would know, and they said, he's not going to stop fighting for you know, property tax relief, but he
Right.
does. We'll look at the details, and I get the sense there's some sort of compromise in the works. Or even last year during the budget, I was hearing whispers that Coughlin might have been open to changing the eligibility threshold. I don't know if maybe he agrees the eligibility change, but not dropping the maximum payout. I don't know how many seniors there are who just live in a high tax area but don't make $500,000, but are also going to see a few $1,000s cut from this. There's also a lot of moving pieces here. I don't expect an all-out war, not from the sense that I've gotten. I haven't heard that. I heard some legislators were annoyed at her comments, but I don't get the sense like we're on a war footing here. But a few months is a long time in
Right.
politics. A lot can change.
I was going to say it's still early.
Yeah.
She talked about getting the pork or the Christmas tree items out of the sausage making. Fred, is that going to happen? I mean, is there any energy for that?
Well, I mean, she does have the upper hand, right? Because she could line item veto these. So we'll find out. I mean, I guess maybe the legislature could test her by inserting some in the budget, like money for Democratic programs in Democratic districts, and then she'll have to make a decision.
Dustin, that would be a really brand new day if those 11th hour Christmas tree items were no longer allowed or even offered. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a huge change. I don't necessarily foresee that happening fully. Lawmakers do have fair arguments for tacking these things on because they're for certain programs and services and whatever. You can rationalize a lot of it. The big problem is how it all gets done, which is at the last minute, no transparency whatsoever. You find out about it after the fact as far as the details go. So if they were to address that, that would probably be enough change to satisfy people because they can make the argument, well, yeah, we need to get $1 million for this program down in Salem County or whatever. And, this park needs upgrades, so we need money for that, whatever. It's just the process that really irks people.
Yeah. Brenty makes a good point because, I mean, they call it Christmas tree items, and usually the ones who call it that are the ones who aren't getting the
Yeah.
Christmas tree items.
Christmas
But
in July.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dustin's right. Sometimes the park needs a rehab, and this nonprofit does great work in a community. That's what their legislators are for, no?
It's a weird thing because yeah, you often do hear legislators behind the scenes say, these are jails and hospitals and parks. I mean, for the most part, there are some things that are tacked on that can be questionable at times. And also, but it's the process, as Dustin said. It's
Yeah.
no one is happy. All of us have been there on a Tuesday before the budget is due at midnight when the budget's finally being rolled around and no one's happy. The gamble that lawmakers make is that most of the public's probably not paying attention to this and probably doesn't care if theirs, especially if theirs is the park that is getting the new money. So, but they will pay attention, I think, to a new governor who comes out swinging on this. So this is the time to get these things done. You'll hear that behind the scenes too. Insiders say, if she's going to take any punches, throw any punches, you'd better do it now. This is the time when you have the most capital.
Right. I mean, that's kind of a strategy that a lot of elected officials use is get the bad news out of the way in that first year, and then you can walk it back in the succeeding three and hope that nobody remembers that first year. Speaking of this process, I guess there are bills out there to force the budget to be made, the final budget to be made public with time for people to look at it and so on. Dustin, any energy for those kind of bills?
No. We go through this. We go through this a lot. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
the reality is the budget process is what it is, and it's never going to change. I just highly doubt it. I
Well,
hate to be so cynical about it, but like we just see these things floated from time to time. We've heard for how many years that we should do multi-year budgeting, which
Right.
makes complete and total sense, but nobody wants to do it because
yeah,
we do it this way, and like this works for everybody.
politicians like talking about transparency, but doesn't mean they really believe in it.
Yeah, they're not. Their lack of belief in transparency is pretty transparent.
Indeed, as we
Brent?
saw when they gutted the Open Public Records Act a year ago.
Oh yes, I remember those days. Uh, Brent, I mean, I guess Ravi Bala and his
Katie Brennan.
Katie Brennan. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. They've got one bill out. I wonder if these Democrats who came in without the need or support of the bosses, will they be able to hold sway on any votes,
They'll
particularly
probably
something like this?
Yeah, they'll probably make a lot of noise on it, just like they're doing with ice bills. If you name something with an expletive in the title, you're going to get a story in NJ.com. So, I think I think they will make noise. I don't know how much capital they will have yet. We're still early in this new boss, not boss type anti-machine
Right.
system we have going on. But, we'll definitely, I do expect to hear more about the process should be changed. But ultimately, it's Craig Coughlin and Nick Scutari who put the bills up for a vote. So if they feel the process has to change, then they're the ones who are going to have a vote on it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Republicans in their response had separate responses. Somebody asked the Senate side. It was Senators Bucco and O'Scanlan who were giving the Senate Republican response. Why it was that they didn't do it together, and nobody seemed to have a really straight answer. That was kind of weird that they did separate responses? No, Dustin?
Yeah, it is strange, especially, it's a minority party. It's tough for them to even get any sort of attention. So for
Right.
them to be clashing at the same time really doesn't make any sense. I'm honestly not sure why that was.
I had heard that I'd heard that the assembly side wanted to do something different, I was told, and that they kind of want to go a little harder, I guess. The thought is maybe O'Scanlan and Bucco like some of the changes she suggested and we're going to go bulldogish on her, although they did have critical things to say. But Brian Rumpf especially were like, we're gonna throw a jackhammer at her. I think it would have been more effective if they did it together because we had to scatter reporters to go to both. But To each their own. I mean, they're at their lowest level since Watergate, so they have to find ways to get attention.
Throwing a jackhammer is just a great visual, you know.
Yeah.
Like a javelin, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I also heard that it's the lower house and that they're more rabble-rousing
Yeah.
than the more deliberative upper house. And the person that I spoke to reminded me of how much noise they were making during COVID. Remember, they wanted to get into the assembly chambers and they were kept out. And
I was
even
there,
then, even then, the senators were like, "Oh, look at these rowdy kids."
That's pretty accurate. It's a good, now we're 6 years on from COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the sense, yeah, the Assembly Republicans feel they have to be the ones to really yell, because if you are at the smallest level you've been in 50 years, that you have to do something to get attention and make noise. Maybe that's what they felt they had to do.
Yeah. All right. Enough budget talk. Let's get into some raw politics here. The CD11 race trying to heat up. I guess that special election is in April, right?
April 16th, about a month away.
April 16th. Hathaway has this debate strategy going. He's saying Ana Lilia Mejia is ducking me, that he has 3 debates that he's agreed to. Do we know who these debate hosts are, Fred?
I do not know. Do you? I really. One of them might be the League of Women Voters, which Republicans at least sometimes don't like the League of Women Voter debates because they think that the league leans too far to the left.
Yeah.
But when I speak to Joe, he said he would accept the League of Women Voters debate. Now, I mean, I guess Mejia, the district still leans very Democratic. So let's face it, if you're in the lead, you probably don't need to debate. If you're the challenger, you need to debate. So I'm sure they'll get together for something.
I was going to say, I mean, you got to have at least a debate, don't you,
You
Brent?
would think so, yeah.
Yeah, especially for such a high-profile election. Although the real high-profile battle was considered to be the primary, especially with the outcome. It's often been considered that even though she's more left-leaning, that Mejia is the favorite in April, and Hathaway's trying to make that not the case. So, but I guess you need a debate to do that. But really, it is a high-profile one, so I imagine, as Fred said, they will come together.
Is she ducking him?
I don't know if she's ducking him. I mean, I'm sure she could say, well, the primary only ended a few weeks. We still got some time to go. So I'm assuming, as Brent said, there'll be some getting together.
Yeah, Dustin, he kind of forced Ana Lilia to call herself a soccer mom, which I guess she is. And then she, in turn, called him a friend of that January 6th bunch, which I thought was a little bit of a reach on her side. I don't know that she had to do that.
Yeah, I think all of the different attacks have been a reach. There's really no evidence aside from Joe Hathaway taking a picture with a guy that he's really like a J6er conspiracy theorist or supporter or whatever. But he at the same time and others call her like this radical socialist. And that's not really true either based on what we know. So yeah, I mean, it's all just extremes, and it's kind of the way campaigns go. And that's why I think a debate or some sort of forum or whatever is really important, is because that allows the voters to hear from them and they can hash it out, and then they can, make their own informed decisions instead of like getting information from an ad or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Running out of time here. I got to get this question in. There's a Bon Jovi biopic. It's been greenlit. You gonna watch? And what's your favorite Bon Jovi song? I'm gonna start with you, Fred.
Oh, I don't really have one. I'm not a Bon Jovi. I will definitely watch.
All right. Dustin? Bon Jovi.
I'd rather get a root canal.
All right, I'm going to have the controversial take here because I'm from Central Jersey. I grew up next to Sayreville.
And of course, you want to get the opening act
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Slot for your band, but go on.
My brother worshipped Richie Sambora when I was a kid. He learned to play guitar largely because of Richie Sambora. Even wanted to buy leather pants for my mom when he was a kid, and she's like, "Richie Sambora wear leather pants," and he's like, "He's from Sayreville. You're from East Brunswick." I remember that line. Bon Jovi has a very great underrated 1994 album called These Days, which they tried to make like an alt rock album, and it was really good. And the great song on there is called This Ain't a Love Song. It wouldn't be out of place on something you heard in alternative radio. So I'm gonna say Bon Jovi made an underrated record of the 90s, regardless of what you think about their 80s work. So I will watch the movie. Go Central Jersey.
This ain't a love song.
This ain't a love song. You know, I'm sure Phil Murphy and him have heard it on their trips to Italy. So
I always love Brent's contrarian takes. They're the best.
Does Central Jersey really exist? I never thought it did.
I will go to war. I'll make Central Jersey its own state.
Okay.
You're opening up a whole other can of worms, Fred. We'll have to pick that up on the next show.
I'm going to go get dinner in Sayreville in honor of this tonight.
All right. Press Corps is done for the week. Brent Johnson, Dustin Racioppi, Fred Snowflack. Good to see you all. Thanks. And thanks to all of you for streaming, liking, and subscribing. I'm David Cruz. We'll see you next week.